Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark and I've been a hypnotherapist for the last 8 years and I've been a holistic therapist for the last 14 years. Anyway, every Friday I talk about the fears and phobias, and these are the top 100 phobias in the world. Now, I'm not doing them in any specific order, but why I do this is because it's how therapy such as hypnotherapy helps cure them. So number 31 is the fear of the Lord or God phobia, called theophobia. So also we can see as theophobia is also the fear of religion, and this I have had a lot of clients who have the fear of God, the fear of religion and the fear of judgment and so forth, which is also interlinked because I said the fear of opinions, but this is also on from a religious statement. So when we're looking at this, when we're looking at the Christianity religion or even the Torah, it says that man should have a healthy fear of the Lord God, even in Islam of Allah, for betterment of life. However, an unhealthy, persistent or irrational fear of God is a specific phobia that can cause a great deal of distress to the sufferer and their loved ones. The fear of the Lord, fear of God phobia is known by several names. Fear of God, fear of religion, which I mentioned, fearphobia are a few of these. The word theophobia originates from the Greek words theology and phobos. So theology is the study of religion or rules and regulations, and phobia means God and religion, and Latin means extreme fear or dread, phobias. So this is an anxiety condition that can greatly impact the quality of life of the sufferer. Lost opportunities, poor grades, performance at work, lack of promotions, degrading health can all result from this phobia. Contrary to popular belief, there is no link between atheism and theophobia. Atheism is the disbelief in God, where a theophobic actually believes or even loves God to the extent that they fear God deeply. Now, another thing as well with this is the idea of atheism and then theism, and then also you got the other idea of being a Gnostic, which is someone who believes that God is within ourselves, and then an agnostic is that they believe God but they don't actually know what God is. So these are quite some interesting terms. So a phobia related to fearphobia is amphiophobia. This is the fear of not having God in one's life, which I'm sort of talking about agnostic. It is not as extreme as fearphobia, but it's quite common among believers of God. So such people fear that they must always be connected to God, visiting a church, a temple, a mosque. Also in Hinduism, they don't have that in their lives, so it's about the idea that the Brahman would be an issue. And daily constantly thinking on talking of their God or a deity are a few ways in which they try to achieve this. Now the causes of fear of God or religion is phobias are in the mind's way of protecting itself. As in the case with most phobias, fear of God, phobia, also originates in the unconscious mind. It links emotions expressed under certain circumstances. A real life childhood experience, bad grades, death of a loved one, following a bad conduct, might be linked to God's wrath or bad karma. Mild cases of childhood fearphobia generally go away by the age of 6. However, some persist well into adulthood. I have actually dealt with a lot of people who were brought up Jehovah's Witnesses, and they had this idea of Judgment Day. The fear of that was poured into them, and that was something they've had to deal with as an adult and always had that fear. So I would say as a therapist, I've had a lot of these cases to deal with from people with different religions. Again, the idea of I always thought with God, the way I brought was up with whatever God you believe in or deity, is that they are loving, not hateful. So again, this is something we have to deal with for clients. Other catalysts for fearphobics include movies, stories, news reports which show examples of similar situations. So the symptoms of fearphobia. So fearphobics are known to experience panic or anxiety attack at the thought of visiting any religious place of worship. Again, we see it in churches, we see it with mosques, and we see it with synagogues, and we also see it with Hindu temples. Or when faced with an ethical or moral dilemmas. The symptoms of the fear of God or religion phobia are more or less similar to those of other phobias. They manifest themselves in two ways. In some individuals, the symptoms may be present all the time. In others, they may require a direct stimulus to be seen. The direct stimulus includes sitting in a place of worship or facing a moral or ethical question in their life. So both physical and psychological symptoms might be experienced by the phobic: shortness of breath, a full-blown panic attack, dizziness, rapid heartbeat, sweating, trembling, gastronomical distress, thoughts of death, feeling like run away are some of them. Now, overcoming the fear of the religion or a Lord phobia or God, whatever it is, since fearphobia is usually deep-rooted, the recovery is also progressive. Phobics and their loved ones must realise that the process may take a few days, weeks or even months for complete resolution. Again, with the clients I've worked with, it's actually finding the initial trigger of what that is, allowing them to explain it, work with that, get some reframing of that, and then that will be the knock-on effect. That to me is how you should work it. I think when people are taking days, weeks and months, I think that can also make it worse, because then that could actually mean you're just over processing it, and then also then a therapist sometimes would end up being to a client like a godlike figure. Just a personal opinion of mine. I've always worked with clients that I always believe that you should try and work with them in short amount of time as possible, and so they can carry on with their lives. And say you do 3 sessions with them or 6 sessions at the max, is then we've given them like a few, keep in touch with them for every 2-3 weeks after that and stuff, but leave it for 4 or 5 months and see how they progress. And if they really need the work, do so. I think you sometimes have to have that distancing and boundaries. So the key to overcoming the fear of God or religion is an early intervention and diagnosis. The phobic must be exposed to this phobia on a regular basis. Going to places of worship, experiencing situations that call for moral and ethical choices are a few ways of achieving this. Drugs should not ever be used for treating the fear of the Lord or religion phobia, as they only offer temporary cure and superficially mask the symptoms. They can also be a habit forming or give rise to withdrawal symptoms. Right? Also, if people have issues with their mental health, really not a good idea. Neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy are 2 highly effective means of treating and overcoming fearphobia. Both these phobias get to the root of one's fear and help the individual drive out the fear of God or religion from this person's mind. So if a loved one is suffering from this fear, you are not alone. Countless individuals are known to suffer with it, but there is help available in so many therapies which you can regain your confidence, understand reality, and permanently drive out the fear of religion from your mind. So also, this is another thing as well. People feel that hypnotherapists or holistic therapists aren't religious. That is not true. What most therapists do is, people think, oh, they were all atheists. No, they're not. What they do is they understand the world of spirituality. They understand and respect different religions, but it doesn't necessarily mean they attribute themselves to one. Now, on a personal level, I was born a Christian, I was christened, and I grew up in C of E schools, and I saw religion, I saw the stories, and I found that the New Testament and the Old Testament, I didn't agree with. I thought there was a lot of fear-mongering with it. It never affected me as much as other kids. So as I grew up, once I became, as of 16, 18, then when I went to university, I started learning. I'd already been learning about religions, about Hinduism and so forth. And then over time, I looked at different religions, different ideas. I looked at Sikhism, I looked at Taoism, I looked at Buddhism, I looked at Islam. In fact, I actually went to mosques and so forth over my 20s, and also other religions. And I actually then, by the time I got to, after about 31, 32, I started, after I was doing all the holistic work, I started navigating myself and realising I had an alignment to Hinduism. Now, am I a strict Hindu? No, not at all. I look at the teachings and I find the teachings will work for me. Now, that probably sounds like a pick and mix contemporary culture, but I find certain things, the ideas of that works with my work as a hypnotherapist. Also works with my work as I do chakra healing, also the idea of yoga, how that works with the Nadi astrology. All these different things work for me. Now, That doesn't mean I would ever condemn anyone from any religion. I would not say, oh, that religion's rubbish, or that religion's bullshit, or any of these things. I don't. What I see is that every form of faith or anything can help people be grounded. But what I don't agree with is with any religion when it goes extremist and they make you fearful of that religion, or fearful if you don't adhere to the rules. That, to me, I don't think is religion. That's a form of control. And that, to me, is like government. So in this field of what I work in, my main focus is this, is to help people ground themselves, find a purpose, and that can be a purpose to whatever they feel is needed. And then what my idea is to work with this is, like how religion can help that with people, or people going to church, or going to a religious congregation, or whatever it is to give people purpose, get them to accept their past, help them to revive their present, and then create a future what works for them. And I have actually worked with people who have ended up, they have been away from their religion, and they've ended up, they go back to it. So that also helps them in their communities and so forth, and they've also done it the other way where people have had to remove from their communities. Now, I don't think either one is right or wrong, it's just what's worked for that individual. So I believe this phobia, as much as it was zone number 30, whatever, I believe this is probably more in the world we live in now, and the way religion has become so desensitized and so not included in our cultural upbringing. I do think there is some very good things for people to adhere to, and the idea of rules, stipulations, morals and ethics. If you really want to look at it in another way, if you don't want to believe in religion, so you want to be an atheist like Ricky Gervais or so forth, then you work by hermetic principles, and that is the 7 principles of cause and effect and so forth. There will be a video about this, about the hermetic principles, explaining that. I also have videos I have explained about Hinduism on the basic levels, and you will find there will be always a slant on that from just my learning and teachings I'm learning, and again I'm learning all the time. So that's where I stand, and it's just something I think is a personal belief disclaimer I wish to always say. So then if anybody says, oh, I'm religious, read the Quran, I have been told as a comment, read the Quran, because I said I believed in certain things in Hinduism. I don't need to be told what to do. I know my path, I know what I'm here to do, and I will help you get to your path, but I don't need to be told what path I need to go on to, because, to be honest, at 42 years old, I know what I am and where I'm going. So anyway, until next time, hope to see from you soon.